The galaxy wanted peace, but humanity refused to shake hands. The Galactic Council had been watching Earth for a long time. Many species from different worlds had tried to contact humans, but they never received a friendly response. Humans were strange, unpredictable, and stubborn. Some aliens called them reckless. Some called them dangerous. But every observer agreed on one thing: humans were strong in ways no one fully understood. Ambassador Lorna Hayes stood on the bridge of the Council flagship, Orion's Light. She was one of the few humans who had been invited to speak to the Council itself, though she was there more as a neutral observer. Her task was to help the Council send a message of peace to humanity. Lorna had seen human ships move through space. She knew how powerful they were. Yet, she still hoped the meeting would be calm, that humans would respond to reason. Captain Jason Clark, the commander of the Council patrol fleet, paced behind her. He had seen hundreds of worlds, but humans always puzzled him. "They'll either kill us immediately or ignore us," he said, rubbing his jaw. "I have no idea which one it will be." Mia Bennett, a young diplomat, leaned against the railing, watching Earth slowly spin below them. "I think you're underestimating them," she said quietly. "They're clever. If they wanted war, they would have already started it. They're waiting for something. I just don't know what." Lorna turned to look at the blue planet. It was beautiful, covered in oceans and clouds, with patches of green and brown that marked the continents. "They've survived a lot," she said. "Plagues, wars, even disasters we cannot imagine. I think they value their freedom more than anything else. That's why they won't surrender to us, no matter what we offer." The Council had already prepared their gifts: crystals that could store energy for years, medical technology that could heal wounds in seconds, and documents of trade agreements that could make humans wealthy beyond imagination. But Lorna knew that humans did not want wealth or technology if it meant giving up control of their planet. When the Council ship entered Earth's orbit, human sensors detected it almost immediately. Admiral Ethan Drake, the commander of the Earth Defense Fleet, stood on the bridge of the main human warship, the Sentinel. He was a tall man with a square face and calm eyes. His crew looked nervous. They had never seen anything like the Orion's Light, and yet he remained steady. "Status report," he said. His voice was firm. Lieutenant Sarah Palmer, standing at the radar console, replied, "They're in orbit, sir. No weapons fired yet. Their shields are active." "They're scanning us, I think," Drake frowned. "Open a channel, let's see what they want." The main screen lit up and a figure appeared. It was Ambassador Lorna Hayes, looking calm and professional. "Greetings, humans," she said in perfect common, the language used by most spacefaring civilizations. "We come in peace. The Galactic Council wishes to open dialogue and offer cooperation. We bring gifts, technology, and opportunities for trade." Drake looked at her carefully. He had seen many alien leaders before, but he had learned to trust actions, not words. "You are in Earth orbit without permission," he said. "Explain your purpose, or you will be treated as a threat." Lorna paused. She had expected resistance, but not this direct. "Our purpose is peaceful. We wish to discuss trade, alliances, and mutual protection. We do not intend to threaten you. The Council hopes to meet your leaders in person." Drake leaned back. "I am your leader in this orbit. I will decide whether to allow this meeting. Stand by while we verify your credentials." The aliens exchanged nervous glances. Captain Clark muttered, "They don't even want to shake hands." Mia Bennett gave a small smile. "That's humans for you. They are cautious. But I think that caution hides respect, or maybe fear. Either way, we should be careful." While the standoff continued, Earth's fleet quietly moved into defensive positions. Fighters and patrol drones surrounded the Council ship, forming a precise formation that even the Council's best pilots found impressive. Humans did not fire. They did not threaten unnecessarily. But anyone watching would understand that if humans wanted to attack, the Council would have no chance of escape. Inside the Council ship, Lorna and Jason watched the display. They're not like other species, Jason said, pointing at the screens. They don't panic, they don't beg, they just prepare. They're waiting for what I don't know. Lorna shook her head. They're waiting to see if we are honest. If we make a single mistake, they won't forgive it. Humans have a long memory. They never forget betrayal. Outside, Admiral Drake was not idle. He ordered the fleet to launch small observation probes, drones that could silently move near the Council ship and monitor their systems. We need to know exactly what they can do, he said. They may come in peace, but that doesn't mean we trust them. Sarah Palmer nodded. Yes, sir, probes launched. They are sending back data now. Shields are strong, power systems stable. Weapons, if any, are not powered. Drake considered this. Good, keep monitoring, and alert me to any movement beyond what is visible. Humans survive because we are careful. Never underestimate that. Hours passed in tense silence. The council delegation attempted communication again, sending messages explaining the benefits of trade and alliances. Lorna Hayes spoke again, her voice calm but firm. We bring medicine that can cure many diseases and energy crystals that can power your cities for centuries. We hope to share knowledge and peace. Drake replied, Your gifts are noted. Your words are noted. But you are not authorized to dock, land, or interfere with Earth territory. You will remain in orbit until we approve a meeting. Any attempt to violate our orders will be treated as aggression. On the Council ship, Jason Clark sighed. They are stubborn, Lorna. Stubborn and disciplined, I've never seen anything like it, Lorna nodded. Yes, but this is why humans survive. They do not trust easily, but they also do not attack without reason. That combination makes them dangerous and remarkable. Meanwhile, below in Earth cities, people watched the Council ship in orbit through public broadcasts. Children stared in awe, adults whispered theories, and governments prepared their own contingency plans. Earth had faced crises before, but nothing like this. Humans were divided. Some wanted immediate peace and cooperation. Others, like Admiral Drake, believed caution was the only path. Back in orbit, the tension increased. Council ships moved slightly closer, testing human reactions. Drones buzzed near the perimeter of the Earth fleet formation. Every small move was a message. Humans responded with precise adjustments in their positions, never panicking, never overreacting. The Council realized they were dealing with a species that combined intelligence, patience, and incredible strategic skill. At one point, a Council scout attempted to transmit a holographic gift to Earth's orbiting stations. Humans quickly deployed interceptors, capturing the transmission safely. The gift arrived unharmed, but the Council understood that humans watched every move, never letting anything pass unnoticed. Lorna turned to Jason. They are careful, yes, but they are also honorable. If we were attacked, they would respond with full force. But until then, they will not strike first. That is something rare. Jason nodded. And frightening. You know what I fear. Not that they will attack, but that if we make one mistake, they will never forgive us. They will act fast and they will act smart. The first night in orbit passed slowly. Council crews worked in shifts, monitoring human ships, analyzing signals, and preparing for any unexpected moves. Earth's fleet never fired a shot. They never broke formation. Yet they communicated a clear message. Humans were not to be underestimated. Lorna Hayes stared out the viewport, looking at the glowing blue planet below. She whispered quietly, "The galaxy wants peace, but humans will decide how that peace comes." The next morning, another human ship approached. Lieutenant Sarah Palmer reported, "Sir, an unidentified vessel is approaching. It appears to be civilian, but it is armed." Drake looked at the screen. "Humans always prepare. That's why we survive. Keep scanning. Let them come. We will see what they want." The Council watched in silence as the civilian ship came closer. No panic, no aggression, just readiness. The humans had not yet spoken a word of hostility, but their posture said everything. We do not trust easily, and we will not surrender. Lorna realized something important that day. The humans did not need to strike to show strength. Their strength was in their caution, in their ability to prepare, and in their refusal to bow to anyone. The Council had traveled the galaxy, negotiating with countless species, but humans were unlike any they had ever met. Hours later, the first formal communication from humans arrived through a secure channel. "We will not shake hands or sign agreements until we are certain of your intentions," said Admiral Drake. "Peace may exist, but only on our terms. Understand that clearly." The Council crew exchanged uneasy glances. Jason muttered, "They are saying no, but in a way that makes it clear we are not safe but we are respected. That is confusing." Lorna smiled faintly. "Humans always confuse others, that is part of their nature. But one thing is certain, they are not weak, they are not naive. And they will never be controlled. The galaxy may want peace, but humans will give it only if it suits them." And so the standoff continued. The Council hovered in orbit, uncertain and uneasy. Earth's fleet remained ready, calm, and disciplined. The first contact had begun, not with fire, not with explosions, but with patience, observation, and quiet strength. The galaxy thought humans would bow or shake hands. Humans thought differently. And that difference would soon become the legend that other species would never forget. Days passed since the Council ship first appeared in Earth's orbit. The Council believed their arrival would impress humans, but the humans did not act impressed. They remained calm, disciplined, and watchful. Admiral Ethan Drake's fleet moved like a single organism, each ship adjusting its position carefully, ready for anything. On board the Orion's light, Ambassador Lorna Hayes watched the displays, her face tense. "They are not reacting like other species," she said. "They don't panic, they don't beg, and they don't show fear. It's unusual." Captain Jason Clark frowned. "Unusual is one word for it. Terrifying is another. I have never seen a species that can hold such control over fear. They are aware of us, every single move we make, and yet they do not strike first. That is dangerous in ways I cannot calculate." Mia Bennett, the young diplomat, shook her head. "I think you are misunderstanding them, Jason. They are not reckless. They are careful. Every species we have met would have already attacked or tried to negotiate aggressively. Humans wait, they observe, and they act only when the time is right. That is why they survive." Jason exhaled slowly. "I just hope we don't push them too far. One small mistake and this could turn ugly fast." Meanwhile, on the human fleet, Admiral Drake continued his careful surveillance. "Keep scanning all Council ships," he said. "Report any unusual movements or energy spikes. I want complete information before we make a decision." Lieutenant Sarah Palmer nodded. "Sir, all readings are normal. They are maintaining formation and energy levels, but they are watching us too. Sensors detect multiple long-range scans directed at our fleet." Drake rubbed his chin. "Of course they are. They want to know if we are weak. They will find out soon enough that we are not." Across the galaxy, the Council had never encountered a species like humans. Most civilizations bowed to superior technology. Most feared warships that dwarfed their own. Humans did not bow. Humans did not fear. They simply waited. In the Council's strategy room, analysts tried to predict human behavior. Charts, graphs, and simulations filled the room. "Our models show that humans will likely negotiate if we show power," said one alien officer. Lorna Hayes shook her head. "No, humans do not respond to power in the usual way. They respect skill, strategy, and discipline, not brute strength. If we show power, they will only study it. They will test it, not surrender to it." Captain Clark leaned against the wall. "So what do? If we try diplomacy, they refuse. If we test strength, they adapt. If we retreat, they may think we are weak. They are impossible to read." Mia smiled faintly. "That is exactly what makes them human." In orbit above Earth, a Council patrol ship moved closer to test the humans' response. On board, sensors detected every movement of the Earth fleet. Every human ship adjusted in response. sliding into new positions like dancers in a perfect formation. The Council ship tried subtle energy pulses as a test. Humans responded instantly, deploying shields and small countermeasures that rendered the test harmless. Captain Clark gritted his teeth. They are too fast, too precise. How can they respond this quickly without firing a single weapon? Lorna Hayes replied. Practice, preparation, and observation. They watch everything and they learn instantly. They adapt faster than any species I have ever seen. Back on Earth, Admiral Drake observed the Council's tests through live feeds. They are trying to intimidate us, he said calmly. Let them try. Every move they make, we learn something. That is how humans survive, always aware, always ready. Hours later, a Council envoy sent a message directly to the Earth fleet. We mean no harm, Ambassador Lorna Hayes said. We wish only to discuss peace. We offer technology, knowledge, and safety. Please consider our request. Drake's reply was simple and firm. We are listening. That is all. Any attempt to force compliance will be considered an attack. The Council watched as their message was delivered without argument or emotion. No begging, no hesitation, no panic. Humans spoke only with facts. That alone stunned the alien crew. They had never met a species that could remain so calm under such circumstances. Meanwhile, on Earth, civilians watched the Council ship through live broadcasts. People speculated, debated, and argued. Some wanted peace, others feared deception. Do they want to help us, or are they planning something? A news anchor asked on a live feed. In the fleet, Drake ignored the speculation. We do not act based on rumors or fear. We act based on observation and readiness. Keep monitoring all Council communications. Keep the ships in defensive positions. Humans survive because we never underestimate the unknown. Days turned into a week. The Council tried several more attempts to impress or intimidate the humans. They sent holographic gifts, projected powerful energy pulses, and even demonstrated weaponry in distant orbit. Each time, humans responded with calm precision, neutralizing the tests without aggression. On board the Orion's light, tension grew. They are remarkable, said Lorna Hayes. They refuse to act rashly. They refuse to surrender, yet they also refuse to ignore us. They are not afraid, but they are not reckless. That combination is dangerous. Jason Clark nodded slowly. Yes, dangerous and fascinating. I have never seen a species survive so well in such a chaotic galaxy. Mia Bennett added quietly, and they survive because they are united. Even when humans argue among themselves, they act as one when it matters. Discipline, strategy, and patience, those are the things no alien species truly understands about them. On Earth, Drake received reports from satellites. He looked at the Council's patrols moving in formation. They are powerful, yes, he said. But power alone does not win battles. Observation, strategy, and timing win battles. Humans understand that. That is why we are still standing while the rest of the galaxy is already in chaos. That evening, another Council delegation sent a smaller ship to the edge of Earth's orbit, hoping to meet humans face to face. It hovered silently, with lights off and shields up. Humans noticed instantly. Drones swarmed around the ship, mapping every surface. Not a single human weapon fired, but every system of the Council ship was cataloged and analyzed. Captain Clark observed the human drones. They don't attack. They don't intimidate. They only watch, record, and respond when necessary. How can a species be so confident without aggression? Lorna Hayes answered. Confidence comes from knowing your strength and being ready to act. Humans are patient, but they are also dangerous if underestimated. That is why they survive. That is why they are feared and respected. On Earth, civilians grew curious. People watched the small Council ship, unsure of what would happen next. Children imagined aliens landing and becoming friends. Adults worried about war and technology. Governments debated secretly, trying to understand why humans were not reacting like other species would. Admiral Drake ignored public opinion. Humans survive because we trust our training, our observation, and our judgment. The rest of the galaxy may bow to superior technology, but we do not. We never have, and we never will. As night fell, the Council delegation aboard the Orion's Light prepared for another communication attempt. "We must impress them," said one officer. "They refuse to respond to reason. They refuse to respond to power. What else can we do?" Lorna Hayes shook her head. "Nothing. They will respond only when they choose to. Our actions cannot force their respect. Humans do not give respect lightly, and they never give it to weakness. We can only wait and hope they choose to speak." The Council understood something important. Humans were not like other species. They did not bow, they did not beg, they did not fight unless necessary. They observed, calculated, and acted with precision. Any attempt to force humans into submission would fail. Any attempt to test humans without caution could be fatal. Meanwhile, Earth's fleet maintained their positions, quietly observing, quietly learning, quietly preparing. Every Council movement was recorded, analyzed, and catalogued. Humans were patient. They waited for the moment that mattered, and they would strike only when it gave them the best advantage. Ambassador Lorna Hayes realized this clearly. "The galaxy wants peace," she whispered to herself, "but humans will decide the terms, and no one, no matter how powerful, can control that." In orbit, the standoff continued. No shots were fired. No words of anger were exchanged. Humans simply waited, studied, and defended themselves without aggression. The Council had learned something new. A species could be strong, calm, and disciplined, and yet still be completely unstoppable if underestimated. The first attempts at peace had failed. But the Council now understood one undeniable truth. Humans do not act like other species. Humans survive because they are not only strong but intelligent, patient, and united. They act when the time is right, and they strike with precision. For the first time, the Council began to fear the very species they came to negotiate with. Not because humans were violent, but because they were clever, disciplined, and impossible to predict. And that fear came with respect. As the day ended, Orion's Light hovered silently above Earth, watching, waiting, and trying to understand a species that refused to shake hands, refused to bow, and refused to surrender. Humans had sent a clear message without firing a single shot. The galaxy may want peace, but peace on Earth's terms was the only peace that would exist. The Council had waited for a week and learned nothing new. Humans did not panic. Humans did not beg. Humans did not strike. The Orion's Light hovered in orbit above Earth, but the Council crew grew uneasy. Every human movement was measured, every action precise. It frustrated them. Captain Jason Clark called a meeting in the Council ship's strategy room. Lorna Hayes and Mia Bennett joined him, along with the other officers. "We need to test them," Clark said firmly. "We cannot wait forever. We have to show our strength just enough to see how they respond. If they surrender, fine. If they resist, we will learn something important." Lorna shook her head. "Be careful, Jason. Humans are not like other species. They will not react predictably. Any mistake could make them angry in ways we cannot control. They do not bow to threats, but they will defend themselves if provoked." Mia added, "I think testing them is dangerous. The more you push, the more they learn. Humans adapt quickly. If we try to scare them, they will respond in ways we cannot expect, and they will remember it." Clark frowned but nodded. "I understand, but we need to know their limits. Prepare a small patrol to perform a demonstration. We will not attack, just enough to measure their response." The patrol ship launched quietly, moving toward the outer rim of Earth's orbital space. It carried long-range sensors, energy projections, and a few non-lethal tests designed to measure human defenses. Onboard the Orion's Light, Lorna monitored the patrol's data. "Look at them," she said. "They are already detecting the ship." Humans always see more than we think they can. Jason leaned closer. Yes, but watch how they respond. It will be fascinating. In Earth orbit, Admiral Drake noticed the patrol approaching. All ships prepare for observation, he said calmly. No shots unless provoked. Let us see what they do. Lieutenant Sarah Palmer activated the fleet's scanning arrays. Sir, sensors show a small ship approaching. Shields are up, but weapons are not powered. It appears to be a test. Drake smiled slightly. Exactly. Let them test. Humans learn quickly from observation. They will respond without overreacting. As the Council patrol ship projected energy pulses in the empty space around them, humans responded immediately. Drones moved in perfect formation, intercepting the pulses, analyzing their energy, and sending the data back to Earth Command. Not a single human ship fired a shot. Not a single human weapon was activated. Yet the patrol ship found itself surrounded by human drones at a distance it could not anticipate. Captain Clark muttered, "How do they know exactly where we are? They didn't fire, yet they have us mapped perfectly. Every system, every vector, every weak point, it's all recorded." Lorna Hayes watched quietly. Humans do not act recklessly. They observe, calculate, and respond. They are not just strong, they are clever, and they never forget what they learn. Mia Bennett added, "They will remember every pulse, every drone, every test we send. Humans have long memories. If we push too far, they will not forget." Back on Earth, the fleet continued its silent observation. Admiral Drake and his officers reviewed the patrol ship's energy patterns, shields, and speed. "They are powerful," Drake said, "but that alone does not matter. We can counter anything they do if we remain patient, calm, and precise. Humans survive because they are always ready." Hours passed as the patrol continued its tests. Each attempt by the Council ship was measured, calculated, and neutralized by humans without aggression. It was a silent battle, a test of strength and observation. Humans did not seek to destroy. Humans sought to learn, to observe, and to prepare. Captain Clark finally spoke. "I do not understand them. They do not fight, yet they are stronger than any species I have encountered. They do not panic, yet they respond faster than any algorithm we have. How is this possible?" Lorna Hayes replied softly, "It is their nature. Humans combine patience, discipline, and intelligence. They observe everything, learn from it, and prepare for when it matters most. They survive because they do not act blindly. They act deliberately." In Earth orbit, the Council patrol realized it could not escape the observation. Human drones moved like shadows, always in position, always tracking, never attacking. The patrol sent a message back to Orion's light. "We cannot proceed further without risk." Their defenses are precise and overwhelming, even though they have not fired a shot. Clark frowned. "Tell the fleet to maintain position. Humans are learning fast, but that is the point. We want to see how far they will go without losing control." On Earth, civilian satellites and orbital sensors recorded every movement. Scientists studied the Council patrol's energy patterns, predicting each pulse before it happened. "They are analyzing us," Sarah Palmer said, "but we are also learning from them." "This is a mutual observation," Drake nodded. "Exactly. Knowledge is power. Humans survive because we understand our environment, our enemies, and our own strength. Let them show their power. We will show ours silently." Meanwhile, the Council ship sent a small shuttle closer to Earth's orbital perimeter. Its purpose was to observe human technology more closely, to see how they defended against the patrol's tests. Humans noticed instantly. Drones swarmed around the shuttle, mapping its systems and sending real-time feedback to the Earth fleet. Lorna Hayes whispered, "They see everything. They are everywhere at once, and yet they do not attack. They are patient, clever, and precise. This is beyond what we expected." Captain Clark rubbed his temples. "I do not like this. If we make one mistake, they could retaliate in ways we cannot predict, and they will remember it forever." Mia Bennett leaned forward. That is what makes them dangerous. They survive because they adapt, learn, and never give up. Humans are not just strong. They are intelligent, careful, and unstoppable if underestimated. On Earth, the Council shuttle tried to transmit data back to Orion's light, but the humans intercepted it. They studied the shuttle, extracted the information, and returned it harmlessly, demonstrating control without aggression. Every move was precise, deliberate, and silent. Drake watched the operation calmly. Humans do not act unless necessary, but when we act, we do so perfectly. That is why we survive. That is why the galaxy misunderstands us. They see only power, but humans understand control. The Council delegation grew frustrated. They do not react as expected, one officer said. Our tests are meaningless. They ignore our strength and respond with patience. What kind of species is this? Lorna Hayes looked at them. The kind that survives, the kind that the galaxy cannot predict. They do not act like others, and that is their strength. If you push them, they will respond. But not like anyone else you have met, and they will remember everything. In orbit, another human ship moved closer to the patrol ship. It was a civilian vessel, but armed for defense. The patrol felt the presence immediately. Human drones moved around it in protective formation, creating a barrier without firing a single weapon. The patrol realized they were trapped, not by aggression, but by observation and control. Captain Clark muttered, "They do not even attack, and yet they have us contained perfectly. How can a species do this?" Lorna Hayes answered. "Humans think differently. They do not rely on brute force alone. They calculate, they anticipate, and they act when it matters. That is why they survive. That is why they are feared." The Council ship withdrew slightly, sending messages apologizing for testing humans too closely. Humans responded only with calm observation. No anger, no threat, just readiness and patience. Hours later, Orion's light prepared another demonstration, this time larger. Energy pulses, shield projections, and a fleet formation, all intended to show the Council's power. Humans responded in the same way, calmly, precisely, and without aggression. Every Council test was recorded, studied, and neutralized. Mia Bennett whispered to Lorna, "They are teaching us something. They survive because they do not waste strength. They respond only when necessary, but when they do, they act perfectly." Clark shook his head. "I do not like it. Humans are unpredictable in ways we cannot measure. We can test them, push them, and watch them, but we will never understand them fully. That is what makes them dangerous." Back on Earth, civilians watched the Council patrol from orbit. Scientists and engineers marveled at how humans could defend so efficiently without firing a shot. Governments studied human strategy and discipline. Even without technology as advanced as the Council, humans proved their greatest strength was intelligence and control. Admiral Drake reviewed the operations calmly. "They are powerful," he said, "but humans are stronger, not in weapons but in thought, preparation, and unity. That is why we survive. That is why the Council underestimates us, and that will be their mistake." The Council delegation realized one undeniable truth. Humans did not respond to threats the way other species did. They observed, learned, and adapted instantly. Any attempt to intimidate them failed, not because humans were reckless, but because they were disciplined and clever. Lorna Hayes finally said quietly, "The galaxy may want peace, but humans will decide how peace comes. They do not surrender. They do not beg. They survive because they act only when necessary, and they act perfectly when they do." Captain Clark leaned back, staring at Earth. "If humans were on any other planet, I would say they are reckless. But here, they are perfect. They are unstoppable if underestimated." The Council patrol returned to Orion's light, battered in pride but unharmed. They had learned a lesson the galaxy had ignored for centuries. Humans survived not because they sought war, but because they prepared, calculated, and never acted recklessly. Strength alone was not enough. Strategy, patience, and discipline were equally important, and humans had them all in abundance. As night fell over Earth, the Council prepared to send another communication. "We wish only for dialogue," Lorna Hayes said again. "We do not wish harm, but humans, they will never act like other species. We must respect that." The first demonstration of power had failed. The Council had hoped to test humans, intimidate them, and observe their weaknesses. Instead, they found themselves studying humans, learning from them, and realizing the galaxy had underestimated Earth. Humans did not fight first. Humans did not surrender. They survived, observed, and prepared, and their power was far greater than any weapon could measure. Orion's light hovered silently in orbit, watching Earth's fleet. Humans did not attack. Humans did not beg. Humans simply waited, studied, and controlled everything. That was their strength. That was why the galaxy could never predict them. That was why humans survived where others failed. And the Council had learned a lesson it would never forget. Testing humans was dangerous. They adapted, they observed, and they survived in ways no one could expect. The galaxy may have wanted peace, but humans would decide how that peace would come. The Council had learned to respect humans, but respect was not enough to calm their nerves. Humans were unpredictable in a way that no one had seen before. They did not fight first, but when they acted perfectly. Orion's light hovered in orbit above Earth, watching, waiting, and trying to understand. Captain Jason Clark paced the bridge. "We have tested them enough," he said. "They are not reacting the way we expected. Each time we try something, they respond calmly with perfect timing. They are terrifying." Lorna Hayes leaned against the railing. "Terrifying because they are human," she said quietly. "Not because they are violent, but because they survive. They think differently, they prepare differently, and they act only when it matters." Mia Bennett added, "They are teaching us something. Most species respond to force, but humans respond to observation. They are patient, clever, and disciplined. That is their real power." Meanwhile, on Earth, Admiral Ethan Drake watched the Council's fleet carefully. "They are testing us again," he said. "We will respond as we always do, calmly, precisely, observing. Let's see what they do next." Lieutenant Sarah Palmer studied the sensors. "Sir, one of their smaller ships is moving closer to the orbital perimeter. Shields are up and it looks like they are scanning. No weapons powered yet." Drake nodded. "Let them. Humans do not attack without reason. We will observe and learn just as we always do. That is how we survive." The Council ship hovered silently above Earth. They sent a small shuttle closer to the planet, attempting to scan human technology and measure defenses. The shuttle moved carefully, but human sensors detected it instantly. Drones launched from the fleet and from orbiting stations, moving around the shuttle without touching it. Every movement was calculated, precise, and measured. Captain Clark frowned. "They are containing the shuttle without firing a single weapon." "How is that even possible?" Lorna Hayes answered. "They do not need to fire. They control everything with observation and precision. Every step we take, they record, analyze, and prepare for. That is why humans survive. That is why the galaxy underestimates them." Back on Earth, civilians watched the small Council shuttle on live broadcasts. People were fascinated. Children imagined friendly aliens landing on the planet. Adults whispered concerns about war. Scientists studied the shuttle, marveling at human technology and strategy. No one could understand how humans could control a potentially dangerous alien ship without aggression. Admiral Drake reviewed the reports. "They are powerful," he said, "but humans are smarter. Not just in technology, but in thought, observation, and action. That is why we survive. That is why no one can predict us." Hours passed. The Council shuttle remained trapped in orbit by human drones. Finally, something unexpected happened. One of the Council's drones malfunctioned and began to drift toward the Earth fleet. It had critical systems failing, and if it crashed, it could cause serious damage. Admiral Drake watched the situation carefully. He could have destroyed the drone to prevent any potential damage, but he did not. "Hold fire," he said. "Let's see what happens." The humans acted quickly. Engineers aboard the fleet deployed repair drones to intercept the malfunctioning Council drone. They moved fast and carefully, analyzing the problem. In minutes, they stabilized the ship and guided it back to safety without firing a single weapon. Lorna Hayes and Jason Clark watched from Orion's light. "Why are they helping us?" Jason asked. "We have tested them repeatedly. We could have caused serious damage." Lorna shook her head. "This is human nature. They survive because they do not act recklessly. They act to preserve life when they can. They are clever, disciplined, and cautious. That is their real power." Mia Bennett smiled faintly. "And notice how they do it. No panic, no aggression. They act decisively and perfectly. That is why humans are unstoppable if underestimated." The Council shuttle was returned safely to Orion's light. The aliens were surprised, even humbled. They had expected retaliation, fear, or aggression from humans, but they received calm, precise help instead. Humans did not act recklessly. Humans acted with responsibility. On Earth, Admiral Drake addressed his officers. "This is how humans survive. We help those in need, even if they test us, even if they challenge us. That is what makes us strong. That is what makes us different. Never forget this." Lieutenant Sarah Palmer nodded. "Sir, they will remember this too. The Council will see humans as clever and disciplined. They will respect us." Drake smiled faintly. "Respect is good, fear is good too, but humans survive because we do not act recklessly. Always calm, always precise, always ready. That is how we will remain strong in the galaxy." The Council delegation gathered in the strategy room. "They helped us," one officer said, still stunned. "After all the tests, all the energy pulses, they saved our malfunctioning drone." "Why?" Lorna Hayes looked at them seriously. "Because humans do not act like other species. They do not attack without reason. They do not surrender without cause. They observe, learn, and act when necessary. Their power is in control, patience, and discipline. They survive because they think differently." Jason Clark rubbed his temples. "It is maddening. They do not follow the rules we know. They are stronger than any algorithm, any weapon, any fleet. How can a species like this exist?" Mia Bennett added quietly. "They exist because they survive. They survive because they prepare, they calculate, and they act only when it matters. That is their nature. That is why they are respected and feared in the galaxy." In orbit, humans continued their calm observation. They monitored every Council movement, every energy pulse, every test. They did not panic. They did not overreact. They acted when necessary, and they acted perfectly. Admiral Drake reviewed the patrol reports. "We are not just observing. We are teaching them a lesson. Humans survive because we understand strength, but we also understand control. That is what makes us powerful." Across the Orion's light, the Council delegation realized another truth. Humans were not reckless. Humans did not act out of anger or fear. Humans acted with purpose, precision, and responsibility. That made them unpredictable. That made them unstoppable if underestimated. Hours later, the Council sent another message to Earth. "We wish only dialogue. We do not seek conflict. Your actions are impressive. We did not expect this." Drake's response was calm and firm. "We do not act without reason. We observe, we learn, and we act only when necessary. That is how humans survive. That is how the galaxy will learn to respect us. Peace may exist, but only on our terms." Lorna Hayes realized the depth of human strategy. "They are not just strong," she whispered to Jason Clark. "They are clever, patient, and disciplined. They survive because they act with thought. That is why the galaxy cannot predict them. That is why humans are dangerous." The Council delegation could no longer approach Earth without caution. Every move had to be calculated. Every action had to be measured. Humans had proven they could act decisively without aggression. They had saved Council technology and life without firing a shot. Jason Clark muttered, "They are perfect. They do not fight recklessly. They do not surrender. They act only when necessary. I cannot predict them." "No one can," Mia Bennett added softly, "and that is why they survive. That is why humans are unstoppable if underestimated. The galaxy may want peace, but humans will decide the terms. And no one, no matter how powerful, can control that." On Earth, civilians watched the Council ship in orbit, still in awe. Scientists and engineers studied human drones and strategies. Governments realized humans had achieved something no one else could. They controlled a superior fleet without firing a single weapon. Admiral Drake observed quietly, "Humans survive because they are disciplined, patient, and clever. They are not reckless. They do not act out of fear. They act when it matters, and they act perfectly. That is why the galaxy misunderstands us. That is why humans endure." As night fell, the Orion's light prepared another message, but this time the Council was cautious. They had underestimated humans too many times. They had tried to test strength, and humans responded with intelligence, patience, and precision. They had acted with responsibility. They had acted with control. Lorna Hayes looked at Earth below. "The galaxy may want peace, but humans will decide how it comes. They survive because they act only when necessary. They survive because they are clever, disciplined, and unstoppable if underestimated." Captain Clark nodded slowly. "We have learned a lesson. Humans are not just strong. They are patient, clever, and precise. They act only when it matters, and they survive because of it. That is why the galaxy cannot predict them. That is why humans endure." Mia Bennett whispered, "And that is why the Council will never forget this lesson. Humans do not fight first. Humans do not surrender. Humans survive because they think differently. That is their real power." The Council could only watch as Earth's fleet maintained its calm precision. Humans did not attack. Humans did not beg. Humans observed, calculated, and acted only when necessary. That was their strength. That was why they survived. That was why the galaxy would have to respect them on their terms. And as Orion's light left orbit that night, one thought stayed with the Council. Humans were more than strong. Humans were intelligent, patient, disciplined, and clever. They survived because they acted perfectly when it mattered, and no force in the galaxy could change that. The Council had spent weeks in orbit above Earth. They had tested humans in every way they could imagine. Energy pulses, patrol ships, even small displays of their technology. Each time, humans responded perfectly. Not with panic, not with anger, not with fear. They responded with precision, discipline, and intelligence. The Council could not understand them. They could not predict them. Captain Jason Clark stood on the bridge of Orion's light, staring at Earth. "I've seen many species," he said, voice low, "but none like this. Humans survive because they think differently. They act only when necessary. They prepare perfectly. And they never forget." Lorna Hayes nodded. "That is why the galaxy has always underestimated them. Humans survive because they do not act recklessly. They observe, they calculate, and they act decisively when it matters. That is their real strength." Mia Bennett added, "And that is why humans are unstoppable if underestimated. They may seem ordinary, weak even, until you see how perfectly they act when it counts. That is what makes them dangerous. That is what makes them remarkable." On Earth, Admiral Ethan Drake watched the Council fleet carefully. "They are leaving," he said finally. "They realize humans are not predictable. They have seen our discipline, our intelligence, and our strength, and now they respect us, or at least fear us." Lieutenant Sarah Palmer smiled. "Sir, they will remember this. The Council will spread the story across the galaxy. Humans survive because we act perfectly, not because we attack first. They will tell others, and humans will be respected." Drake nodded. "Humans survive because we do not act recklessly. We think, observe, and act only when necessary. That is why the galaxy will remember us. That is why humans endure. Above Earth, the Orion's light began to withdraw. Council officers were quiet, deep in thought. None of them had expected this. They had believed humans would surrender to superior technology. They had believed humans would fear them. They had believed humans would react as every other species had reacted. But humans were different. Lorna Hayes turned to the officers. We have learned a lesson here. Humans survive because they are clever, disciplined, and patient. They observe everything. They act only when necessary. That is why they are respected and feared. That is why the galaxy cannot predict them. Captain Clark rubbed his temples. I still do not understand them fully. I have watched them for weeks, and yet every time I think I know what they will do, they surprise me. They act perfectly, even when under pressure. Mia Bennett said quietly, and that is why humans endure. The galaxy underestimates them because humans do not fight like others. They do not act recklessly. They survive because they think differently. In orbit, one of the Council's smaller ships had malfunctioned again, a result of stress from previous tests. Humans noticed immediately. Without hesitation, they launched repair drones. They moved carefully, analyzing the problem, correcting it, and guiding the ship back to safety. Not a single shot was fired. Not a single threat was made. Humans acted perfectly, decisively, and responsibly. Jason Clark could not hide his astonishment. They saved our ship again. After everything we've done, they could have attacked or ignored it, but they helped, and they did it perfectly. Lorna Hayes nodded. That is human nature. Humans survive not because they seek war, but because they act with intelligence, responsibility, and precision. They help when it matters, and they act decisively when necessary. That is why the galaxy fears them. Back on Earth, civilians watched the Council withdraw. People cheered silently in private homes and offices. Humans had faced the most advanced alien fleet in history, and not one human ship had fired a shot. Yet they had proven their strength, their discipline, and their intelligence. Admiral Drake addressed his officers. We do not celebrate victories that involve destruction. Humans survive because we act perfectly, not because we strike first. Remember this. Humanity will endure because we think, observe, and act only when necessary. That is our real strength. Lieutenant Palmer added, Sir, the Council will tell others. They will spread stories about human discipline, patience, and intelligence. Humans will become respected across the galaxy. Drake smiled. Let the galaxy learn. We do not act recklessly. We act when it matters. We survive because we are humans. That is enough. Meanwhile, the Council fleet moved slowly away from Earth's orbit. Council officers whispered among themselves, still trying to understand what had happened. No species had ever survived tests like these without surrendering, begging, or fighting. Humans had done it calmly, perfectly, without aggression, without fear. Lorna Hayes looked out at the Earth below. The galaxy wants peace, she said softly, but humans decide the terms. Humans do not surrender. Humans do not act recklessly. They survive because they think differently, and that is why they are unstoppable. Jason Clark shook his head. I have spent decades in the galaxy. I have seen wars, betrayals, and battles, and yet, humans are unlike anything I have ever witnessed. They survive because they act perfectly. They survive because they think. They survive because they are patient, disciplined, and clever. Mia Bennett added, the galaxy underestimates humans because they are unpredictable, but their unpredictability is not recklessness. It is intelligence. It is discipline. It is observation. That is why humans endure. In Earth orbit, the fleet remained in position until the Council ships were far away, not because humans were afraid, but because humans observed. They watched until they knew the Council was no longer a threat. That was their way. Calm, precise, and intelligent, Admiral Drake looked at Earth below. Humans survive because we think differently. We do not act recklessly. We act when it matters. That is why the galaxy cannot predict us. That is why humans endure, and that is why no one will control us. On the Orion's light, Lorna Hayes gathered the council officers for a final meeting. "Remember this lesson," she said. "Humans survive because they are clever, disciplined, and patient. They act only when necessary. They do not fight recklessly. They do not surrender without cause. That is why they are unstoppable if underestimated. That is why the galaxy cannot control them." Captain Clark nodded slowly. "I will never forget this. I have seen species surrender to superior fleets, beg for mercy, and panic under pressure. Humans, they did none of that. They survived perfectly. They acted with precision and intelligence. That is why they are dangerous." Mia Bennett added quietly, "And that is why the galaxy will respect them. Humans survive not because they seek war, but because they act perfectly when it matters. That is the real power of humanity." Back on Earth, civilians celebrated quietly, scientists studied, and governments prepared for what the future might bring. The humans had faced one of the galaxy's most advanced fleets and survived without firing a shot. They had proven that intelligence, discipline, and precision were stronger than brute force. That was the true meaning of human power. Admiral Drake addressed his fleet one last time. "Humans survive because we think. Humans survive because we observe. Humans survive because we act only when necessary. That is why the galaxy cannot predict us. That is why humans endure. And that is why humanity will never bow to anyone." Across the galaxy, the Council ships reported back to their leaders. Every detail, every movement, every response of humans was recorded. The message was clear. Earth's humans were not to be underestimated. They did not surrender. They did not fight recklessly. They survived because they were disciplined, clever, and precise. Lorna Hayes whispered to herself as the Council left orbit, "The galaxy may want peace, but humans will decide the terms." Humans survive because they think differently. They survive because they are clever, disciplined, and precise, and that is why the galaxy will never forget them. Captain Clark looked at the stars, deep in thought. "We have learned a lesson the galaxy will remember. Humans are not just strong. They are patient, clever, and perfect in action. They survive because they act when it matters. They survive because they are human." Mia Bennett added softly, "And that is why the galaxy respects them, or at least fears them. Peace may exist, but it will always be on human terms. Humans do not surrender. Humans do not act recklessly. Humans survive because they think differently." In orbit above Earth, the fleet maintained calm readiness, watching the Council retreat. Humans had shown their power without firing a shot. They had controlled superior technology with intelligence and precision. They had acted with responsibility and discipline. They had survived. Admiral Drake looked at the planet below and smiled. "The galaxy may want peace, but humans will decide how it comes. That is the way of humanity. That is our strength. That is why we endure. That is why the galaxy will never forget us." The Council had learned a lesson it would never forget. Humans were not like other species. Humans did not fight recklessly. Humans did not surrender. Humans survived because they acted perfectly, decisively, and intelligently. They controlled their power, observed carefully, and acted only when necessary. That was their real strength. That was the power of humanity. And as the Orion's light disappeared into the stars, one thought stayed with every Council officer. The galaxy may want peace, but humans will decide how it comes. Humans survive because they act differently. Humans survive because they are clever, disciplined, precise, and unstoppable if underestimated. The legend of humanity had begun.